Thanks for coming by. I knew you were coming by, but then I forgot you were coming by. So I was like, oh my God, this is great to do a podcast. 'Cause I know everybody would love to hear So Alex is our inspector. He comes every quarter and inspects all of our homes for ANSI and NFPA. If you would, kind of give us a little brief, first of all, of what is the inspections that we're doing here today, and what are the two certifications, ANSI and NFPA, and then we're going to get into who you are and how in the world you got into this business. All right?
No problem. Yes, so I come here, as you mentioned, 4 times per year to inspect the production that you guys currently do on your tiny homes. We inspect them for either NFPA 1192, which is the RV code, or for ANSI 119.5, which is the park model code. And the biggest differences between those are the sizes of the unit, the electrical service that they currently have, but both of them are still considered recreational vehicles.
Got it. So so both of them are in recreational vehicles. Now, was one of them the park model? Is that considered a recreational vehicle?
Yes. So another definition for it is recreational park trailer.
Got it. So now, but the park model is because it's wider than 8'6". Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, wider than 8'6" or taller than 13'6", or having a greater square footage than 320.
320.
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, if you get larger than 399, you get into another certification?
Yes, there's a couple different options at that point. One of them would be the modular certification, which is built to the residential code. And the other one would be the manufactured housing certification, which are the ones that everybody calls the HUD units, Housing and Urban Development.
Okay, all right, good deal, good. Well, we're going to come back to this because this is real important and everybody wants to know how this all works. Mm-hmm. But I want to just know about you. I want to know, where are you from? How'd you get here? And how did you get into this crazy business?
Well, originally I am from Mexico. I moved here about 26 years ago. I started working in other industries. My primary was in flight instruction. After that, I went through a period where I did RV inspections with my current boss. He got me trained for all of those types of products, which we then moved to the tiny home industry, since there was no specific code that was taking care of those types of products. And being that it's on the same type of platform, it's on a trailer, applying the RV code into this type of product, the tiny home, has been fairly successful over the last 8 years that we've been doing it.
Yeah, because of the tiny home industry and how much it's grown, right?
Yes. Yes. Usually what we look at is they have the same types of issues that we're trying to resolve because it is a moving platform. Mm-hmm. So applying those codes that are tried and tested and work for the other types of products has been really easy to keep some sort of consistency, within the vehicles.
Yeah, and I know these inspections that you are doing, it gives municipalities and wherever we go a sense of relief that there's been a third-party inspection.
Correct, and that actually is reflected a lot with the municipalities and localities that do accept the certification and accept these units that have been inspected and certified properly to be placed within their city or county limits.
Okay, so what give you the credibility to be able to inspect these homes?
So as a company, our main company is Pacific West Associates. Our accreditation comes from the states that we represent. The biggest accreditation agency that we currently are inspected by is the state of California, and our tag is recognized nationwide. We also inspect people from Canada that are able to bring in their product under our certifications, whether it's the NFPA or the ANSI certification.
So, for you to be able to have, are you a licensed engineer, builder? What give you that ability to inspect?
Personally, I had on-the-job training for multiple years before I was allowed to do it on my own. Mm-hmm. What qualifies our agency to be able to do what we do is we are reviewed yearly on our personnel, on our documentation, and on our processes and procedures. So we will have a representative from the states that we still work with come out and say, okay, I want to see everything that you have here, how you have conducted your inspections, what your documentation is, and that the qualifications of the people that we employ. And as long as all of those meet the minimum requirements of the accrediting agency or the accrediting state, we are allowed to continue the work that we do.
Wow. So in how many states are you accredited in inspecting?
So prior to 1999, there were 13 states that had oversight to the RV programs. After that, most of those were lobbied out, and currently there are 2 active states that require accreditation through them, one of them being the state of Nebraska and the other one being the state of Washington. Washington still has their own oversight program, so they use third parties just in a minimal capacity, mostly doing plan reviews. But the state of Nebraska still delegates inspections to third parties for manufacturing facilities.
Okay. You know, when I started the tiny home business almost 10 years ago in the backyard, Amanda and I, there, you know, I had gotten, you know, the only one I knew about was tumbleweed. All right. So tumbleweed was going on, and they said RVIA. And I was like, what in the world is RVIA? You know? So I started looking into it, and I it was all RVs across America, in Indiana and Elkhart. It's all, and you look on that little sticker on the door, it says RVIA inspected, you know?
Yes.
So I looked at it, and I started thinking, and I researched it, and it's a private company. I thought it was this, for some reason, a government entity. And it wasn't. And then I started thinking, well, if they're just a private company inspecting them, why can't I formulate my own RVIA inspection company back, and this is 10 years ago thinking this, and I could start inspecting tiny homes and, of course, certifying ours. I never got into it, but then right after that, there was another company, I know they're competitors with you, is the NOAH, the NOAH. And I met these guys, you know, at a couple home shows. And I thought, wait a minute, you're doing the same thing that I could do, you know. And I thought, wait a minute, they're starting this business, and they were charging, like $2,500 to inspect one house. And I said, we're selling our houses for $20, $25, and I'm going to give that much money, 10% of it, to this inspection. And the only reason we needed inspection is people were wanting maybe to get a loan, and that was it. And nobody was buying them with a loan, so I thought, you know, I didn't get into it that much. And then finally, a good friend of mine that we built a home for, he had done some research and found you and recommended. And by then, we were into this business now 7-8 years, and then you come on board, and that opened the door to people for getting loans. Also, here in Cobb County, they wanted them stamped by a third party to hook up electricity to.
Yes.
You know. And so, in other words, you all have started from the RV world, you got into the tiny home world.
Yes, we spent 40 years so far in the RV world, and 8 years ago we started into the tiny home side.
Wow, good. When the RVIA, do you find, is it your builders, do they want to be RVIA certified for what reason? What do they need it certified for?
Generally, my builders are looking for certification when it comes to insurance and to financing. Those are the 2 biggest reasons why most builders seek out a third-party inspection agency. Lately, with the more prevalent acceptance of tiny homes in different jurisdictions, those places are requiring the units to be inspected by an accredited third party to be able to place. The biggest example, again, being California. Most of the laws that have been crafted out there to be able to use them as accessory units or even as primary units in certain jurisdictions have been, they have a requirement that the unit is inspected by one of the companies that they have delegated to do this type of work. As of right now, that certification in California covers the modular and the manufactured housing sectors, but that also allows us to work within the RV market because of, again, our experience and credentials.
Okay, so you work in that whole government agency of the modular and RV and all that. Your company can work. So you're like one of the accredited companies that they would use?
Correct. Yeah, and most states will actually print out a list of the companies that they have vetted through their review and ongoing inspection process. We get inspected just like the builders. They will come in and make sure that everything is done the way that it's supposed to be done. So most states have a list of the agencies that are allowed to do this type of work. And usually it's through the Department of Labor that you will find it, depending on the state. And for most of these agencies, the seals that we provide are accepted nationwide.
Nice. Wow. I know, every time you come here, I'm always like, okay, you're out and about all over the United States, and I'm like, okay, what's the temperature of tiny homes all over the country? And now that we're getting at the end of the summer, getting in September 2024, tell me what's going on in the country is, the economics, the election, the builders, and, what do you think is the temperament of tiny homes?
I think the industry is still very alive and well, but there has been setbacks, just like every other industry, because of things like the interest rates, like the uncertainty with the election. I think what we have historically seen is that on election years, there's less confidence in, spending money, going out and spending money. Compounded now by the high interest rates, the industry does seem to have slowed down a little bit. It is showing signs of picking up, and I think as soon as the interest rate starts going back down, it should normalize to what it was about last year.
Are you seeing, I'm curious, because the price of homes that are mainly sold, is there a certain size or a certain price that hits everybody that most of your builders got?
I don't think it really relates that much to price. I think, just like for the regular housing market, the needs of the customer is what really has been determining who's selling what at this point. I don't think that we can really look at a median price because the industry is extremely varied. You have affordable units that you sell, and then there's other builders that can go up to the 250,000 plus for their costs. Mm-hmm. And it really just depends on the demographics that you're looking at. Usually we see the retired couples, the baby boomers buying the bigger, more expensive units to use them as vacation homes, to put them as a lake type retirement house, for snowbirding. But for the younger generations, we do see the more affordable houses that they can still get with basic credit, with lower end financing. That's all they need. They just need a place to live while they are moving up in the transition of purchasing a home.
And now you're finding, okay, so you got a young couple that want to start out, and you're finding that the certification that you have, banks are looking for that so they can get a loan, right?
Correct. We work with multiple credit unions, mm-hmm. which are a little bit easier to deal with than national banks. And we also work with companies like 21st Mortgage out of Knoxville. And they have been providing financing services. We are in the process of getting more financiers on board. And it seems to be moving in a positive direction at this point, rather than when we started that no one wanted to finance a tiny home because they didn't understand the type of product.
Now, when they finance a tiny home, are the banks looking for the buyers to own their land? What are they wanting in the lending process?
It depends on the type of lending product that they're using. There's a lot of people that go through the route of getting a second mortgage for their home or a home equity line of credit, wherever it's still available. And they use that to purchase the home. And in most cases, those are people that, since they already have land and property that they have, they use them as accessory units, whether it is for rentals, for short-term rentals like the Airbnb type market, or just for having like a mother-in-law suite in the back so that they can receive visitors or have close family members stay with them.
So banks are lending to ADUs and all these categories you're talking about.
They are, and there's places like 21st Mortgage that they will also do loans on the land that you're intending to put the home on.
Got it.
That's closer to what the manufactured housing market has on their lending terms.
So one thing, a big idea we were talking earlier, our biggest challenge is that across the country, people are still having a hard time. Where do I put these homes? And they're not legally anywhere. I was telling you earlier about Tennessee passing this modular home for tiny homes, which opens up the whole state. But anywhere we go outside the state, it's like, man, the cities are saying we don't want a tiny home. We don't want a tiny home. So are the builders that you're working with, are these people putting homes in places that are kind of incognito?
I don't think it comes too much to the builders, but I think that, I mean, most of the time, if you allow someone to do something, they will do it regardless. There's a lot of places that do have homes. We especially see it in agricultural land where you don't really have to have a permit, and people do put them there and they live in them, or they use them, you know, under the intended use of a recreational vehicle, which is seasonal, temporary, or part-time. But I think that with the growing acceptance of the tiny home market and the advances that we have seen regarding the zoning laws that have been amended in multiple states to allow them, personally, I have seen a lot less people saying, "Oh, you know, I'll buy the tiny home and I'll put it on my ranch and nobody's going to see it and I'm just going to live there." That has steadily gone away over the last probably 6 years. I'm sure there's still people that do it, and I'm sure there's jurisdictions where either they don't have the enforcement or they don't have any interest on removing them. Once they understand that having more of a stable house population within their jurisdiction is a beneficial thing, I think that there's even some jurisdictions that may look away from it. Because they know that they're going to get the other economic benefits. You're going to have more people working within their city limits or their county. They're going to be bringing in taxes from the things that they purchase. They're going to be buying food, fuel. They're going to connect to utilities in some cases. So even like that benefits the jurisdiction as a whole.
Well, if you okay, so our audience, and they're going to buy a tiny home, what do you recommend them to do? Okay, they found a builder, and now they're going to put it somewhere. What is the steps that they should take to make sure they're going to be able to? Yeah.
Generally, the first recommendation is that they do their homework on where they want to place the unit. Unfortunately, there has been cases over the last 8 years that I have seen that people will go out and buy a $120,000 tiny home that they intended to put in their backyard, but there was no research done whether the city was going to let them do it or not. And then their $120,000 house turns into a $120,000 paperweight. And it's unfortunate because people do get really into the idea that they're going to be able to do it without any backing from the city or the county or even the HOA in some jurisdictions, in some cases for the customers. So the first step, I think, as soon as they start thinking of the idea of the tiny house, is what is really the intended use that we want to give it? Do we want to live in it? Do we want to have it as a backyard accessory unit? And after they do that, the most important thing is doing the research on that specific plot of land that they intend to put it on. After that, generally comes finding a builder, or in some cases, even building your own home.
Right. So when you say find out, where should they go? Do you go to the courthouse? Do you get an attorney to do this for you, or what?
So there are services that can help you and let you know where you can put a tiny home legally. Most of the time, we suggest that they go to their zoning board, their zoning commission, because they will tell them what type of allowed uses they have down to their parcel number. That is about the best resource that they would have at that point to get all the information. There's also industry associations, the Tiny Home Industry Association, which I'm personally a member, and our company also is a member of this association. There is a page within their website that lists all the jurisdictions that are tiny friendly. There are services that will do the research for you, to usually companies that know or that have previously placed homes, whether they're modulars or mobile homes. They will have that information available, or they would be willing to do the research, obviously for a charge. As an instance, we have in California, in the Southwest states, I work with a company that their primary business is setting modular homes onto foundations. but he got into the tiny home industry, and now he's been assisting with that and with the permitting process.
So this company will say, hey, I want to live in this part of the country, and they'll do all the research, look it up for you, where you can and cannot do, and the permits you got to pull and all that.
Yes, and there's independent consultants like the tiny home lady, well, formerly the tiny home lady that assist with that process.
Is she the crazy lady with the sparkly hat and everything? I've seen her at Fresno. And
Lindsay Wood. Yes.
Yeah, real upbeat. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
She is a wealth of knowledge, and her knowledge goes from living in a tiny home, going through the process of having a builder that left them halfway through, finishing the build themselves, going through the certification process, knowing where to live, where to park, what to do with the home. So that firsthand experience that she has, because she actually lived a tiny lifestyle, has been really helpful to her to be able to point people in the right direction.
Got it. Okay. You know what? When we'll try to get that link of her access on today's show, and of course we're going to put all the information. I know people are going to love wanting to get with you, and you can help them too. I know you've helped other people that we've sent you to, that if they have a question in their city or whatever, you're more than welcome to help them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do as much research as we are able to do. Zoning and occupancy laws vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. You can have something here in Cook County, and then you go to Knox County, and it's completely different.
Yeah.
So we are able to do basic research on that, and I do work with, as I said, with Lindsay Wood and with Contractor Dave is essentially the name.
Yeah,
of the
he's with
company.
cowboy hat, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He is, and he can help with the permitting process, with the research process, and there's a couple of other agencies that are able to do it. People like Alaska Wagoner, she is the tiny house concierge. And she is also very well versed on everything that goes on within the tiny home industry.
What was her name again?
Alaska Wagoner.
I'll be darned.
I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. If I am, I'm really sorry.
No, that's fine. You know what? Maybe we can look all these up in Lindsay Wood, right?
Lindsay Wood, yes.
Lindsay Wood. I'm going to try to get that link because everybody's going to want to go to her and say, hey, how can you help me on this? And that's a big service because it is a big need, and nobody knows, and everybody's scared, and it's affected our business to where, like, I'd buy a house, but I don't know where to put it, and I don't know how to get it on here, you know, and I don't know the steps involved to doing all this, and so it prevents people from buying tiny homes.
Exactly. Yeah, and these services actually help a lot because once that research is done and once they have the confidence that they can put it, you know, they still end up talking to their planning commission and to the zoning board and to everybody else that actually has a hand on them putting the home in there. But I think having the tools, having a resource that can point you in the right direction, say, okay, this is who you have to go talk to for the permitting process. Here's who you have to go talk to for your actual laws, for everything that you need to be aware of. Here's what to look for in a builder. Here's what to look for in, you know, the trailer that they're using, the materials that they're using. All of those resources, I think, are probably always the first step to look into previous to buying the tiny home.
Wow. Now, if somebody wanted to build their own tiny home, can they hire you to do the inspections so they can sell it for a third party?
Absolutely. Usually for the people that want to build their own home, we have a DIY inspection program, and it is all done remotely. The inspections are done remotely for various phases of the construction, which will be the structure itself, the framing, sheathing, the electrical, the plumbing, propane plumbing if it's something that they're going to be using in their homes, and the life safety considerations that are required, like having egress windows, like having a working smoke detector, a propane detector, a fire extinguisher. Once we go through the program, it is a gated program. They have to complete certain sections, and then we go to the next. So they will finish all their framing, their sheathing, we'll inspect that, and then we'll move on to the next section, which usually it's the electrical and the plumbing rough-ins that we can do at the same time before we continue on to, you know, finishing and life safety considerations.
Okay, and that's all you said remotely, so that's done through pictures and video?
It's pictures and video and a very detailed handbook that we provide.
Gotcha. And is the cost of that different on the size of the home that they're building?
No, because of the homes being limited to under 400 square feet,
Okay.
the cost is the same, and it is a flat cost for the certification on a DIY unit.
Okay, great. You can share that cost, or you can call your company, or I don't what you would like. There's a little bit of advertisement for you, because I know there's a lot of DIY people still would like. You know what? I think people would do it if they knew somebody like you could come in and work this through remotely and not be intimidated by this inspection. And I want to say, you guys could probably hear him talking. He's very easy to get along with, Alex, and he's good to work with. And
Thank you.
Not only do you just inspect, like we have inspectors, nope, you did it wrong, fix it. You walk people through things and you teach them what they need. Any questions? I mean, I know we had a issue about egress windows, and they wouldn't fit inside this gable, and we had to make it smaller. And you said, okay, this is a certain window that you can use. This is what you can go down there. And of course, our water heater issue. We went from one water heater to the other, and you said, hey, make sure that's this, and it worked out great.
Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing on the certification that we do is that everything still has to be complied with. Every single rule within the RV book has to be met for us to be able to provide a certification. But considering an owner builder or a DIY, we make sure that we provide, like I said, the handbooks, the code books, but we also, personally, I provide unlimited consultation to my DIYs. And it's because I would rather have someone call me and ask me a question before they start closing up a wall. Because usually after they close up a wall and I tell them that I need to see something, that they should have showed me something, the first time I ask them to rip off a wall, they're not going to be too happy with me.
Yeah, right.
So generally what I tell my DIYs is, if you have a question, call me. There is no, coming from a background in education too, there's no stupid question. And because this is a field where you are spending quite a bit of money and quite a bit of your time, especially as a DIY, if you don't have any experience building, if you have to take out something and redo it, it's just going to cost you time, it's going to frustrate you. And that's something that we try to prevent by both having a handbook that you can follow and having that unlimited consultation.
Yeah, I mean, the cell phone now doing a FaceTime, that's got to be awesome. So, okay, here, look at my frame, and did I do this right and stuff? I remember our anchor bolts. We were doing through anchors, and then after I think we got with you, they were actually, like sips and ties that we wanted to tie, and had to be, drilled through to the trailer and all that, and it was very helpful knowing that I could always call you and get advice, So, from if we go from the tiny home, now we know where we can put a home. We can find a builder. You guys will suggest a builder. And, of course, these two ladies, Alaska and Lindsay, can help in organizing the permitting and getting it set. And then you've got financing. So your company, if I was wanting to build a home in Ohio and we wanted you can give us a list of lenders that maybe in our area that would help us?
We can find lenders. Generally, the first suggestion that I always give is, if you are a member of a credit union, go talk to them. They are a lot easier to deal with and have a much smoother process than you would have with a national bank, mainly because all of the risk management is done in-house and those programs can get approved a lot quicker.
Right.
Where if you were to go with a national bank, risk management department is an entire department of possibly hundreds of people making sure that the interests of the company are protected. Obviously, that's important, but it also delays the process quite a bit. In working with credit unions, I think what I have found is that they are a lot more willing to lend because they see it more, they have their guidelines for how much has to be lent out, and they can say, okay, well, this is a product that we can get behind because we're seeing the qualifications of the builder, we're seeing the qualifications of the inspection agency, the inspector, and we know that it's a product that is going to be, something, as horrible as it sounds, it's something recoverable. So it's a smart investment with someone from the community that's going to want to keep it.
Yeah.
So that does help quite a bit to streamline the process. Usually those decisions have come in as quickly as 2 weeks when there is no program available. There's some that have extended farther than that, about a month and a half. But it's usually a lot more friendly to be able to go through a credit union to get the financing done. Otherwise, you start looking at companies like Lightstream, companies that do personal loans. You have the option of 21st mortgage if you're going through certain builders. My builders are on the list for 21st mortgage for acceptance on finance. So any of the units that bear our tag, as long as they were manufactured by a licensed builder, one of our certified builders, they can go through the process of getting through 21st mortgage.
Right. Wow. And that's Warren Buffett, and they do probably a 20, 30-year note, fixed rate.
Yes, and they will lend on the land too, which is a huge thing on situations like this. Where
so you just put it all together, the land, the house, and everything, and they'll lend on all of it. Perfect. Good. Well, I'm encouraged by the future of tiny homes. I know we were talking earlier that, all these economic predictions, they're talking about, it's a billion dollar industry that's coming. And I think it's because of regular homes are so expensive, So if we can get this together to where municipalities will allow tiny homes to come in, and if they have companies like yours that are accredited, knowing that they're built right. And I think that's my biggest stumbling that I come in front of when I go to a municipality and I say, hey, I want to bring a tiny home community, because we try to build communities. They all think that we're going to build these ragtag, cardboard houses coming in here. And now that, I think that maybe the next thing I'm going to do presenting this, we've been credited by you for years. I think I'm going to put this portfolio together and say, hey, we are inspected by a third party. They're aesthetically beautiful looking. They're built correctly. They're safe. They're not fire traps. They're not electrical traps or anything. And I know that's what gives us credibility, is because when we put that stamp on there, And I think in the future, I hope, of course, me being in the tiny home business, I hope it grows and grows. But I'm finding we like to do communities. I like doing communities. We have found here that we did here in Tennessee, and man, people love being together. And it seems like there's a camaraderie when it comes to tiny home people. They want more tiny home people, and they kind of build this team, Mm-hmm. And now we build a lot across the country. You build homes all over the place, but these communities are really taking off in a way that people want to be together. And it's almost like you get a campground, but it's home. And people love traveling like the nomads. They travel all over the country, and they go to these campgrounds, and they build fires, and everybody's talking to each other. I'm finding that, people want to have that lifestyle but have a permanent home. Are you finding that this is an interest across the country or not?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, in a lot of tiny houses and a lot of the tiny house shows, one of the things that you see is home is where you park it. So it does foster that sense of community with other people that have tiny homes. We do see that quite a bit. We have seen a rise in tiny home communities popping up, especially in either rehabbed modular house parks, in RV communities. Mm-hmm. All of those, we have actually seen an increase of those types of communities over the last 2 to 3 years. And I think it's a good direction to go, because it eliminates a couple of the issues that you would have with starting a new community. Like, trenching for utilities, having all of these other things that you need to do, water, sewer, everything.
Oh, yeah.
Which I know you understand better than a lot of people, how much work it takes for that. So it is a trend that we have been seeing, people rehabbing these old parks, RV parks, modular home parks, and putting tiny homes in them. It's been slow in its growth, but I think it's going to just get bigger as time goes by. And there's other options too. When we originally were brought in, not so much into certifying the houses, but into the tiny home industry, we were looking into doing a new building code for tiny houses. And that, for multiple reasons, was stalled for a while. As of right now, there's a group of us that are actually working on a new code for tiny homes that should hopefully eliminate a lot of the issues that we are currently seeing with an RV that a municipality doesn't like, and that should actually push the industry farther forward than we've ever even thought at this point.
So you're hoping with that code, it almost puts it in line with a regular stick-built home, a quality to it because of the inspections and because it's done right.
Yes, closer to what a modular home would be.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be. I know we are on the IRC, the International Code Book, 19 point something. I can't remember what it is, but it has those stipulations that some municipalities are adopting so they can, hey, 70 square feet for a bedroom, 84 inches for ceilings, and how big this has, a loft has to have so much headroom. Mm-hmm. And that's helped, some cities say, well, we're just going to adopt that. And that's helped us builders, too, to build within those means. But it's not everything. It's not been they're making it be on a permanent foundation. Mm-hmm. And you still got to dig footers. You still got to do all that. And it's still not the true tiny home code,
Correct. And it's, again, because of the designation of them as a recreational vehicle and the definition of what a recreational vehicle is. Going forward, I think that is going to be taken care of by new code and possibly new zoning laws as well. Because once we have something that is specifically to that, something that is similar to what the jurisdictions are already used to, it should give them a little bit more confidence on the type of product that we're trying to bring in at that point.
Right. So when you buy an old RV park, an old modular home park, or a mobile home park, these guys there's people living in these parks. And the only people that can buy these things, they're millions of dollars, even though it may be run down. I've looked into them, and it's like, all the infrastructure's there, but then you've got to really pay for that. And then everybody that I know of wants this residual income. They want that rental rate coming in constantly. So they have a park that's 40 homes, and they want to crank it up. I know they're wanting to get $600, $800, $900 a month for a lot rent. Mm-hmm. And they want to get rid of the mobile homes. They have to leave because the people can't afford it. And then they throw a tiny home, and now they got this. I'm hoping, of course, I'm tooting my own horn on here. I'm hoping that what my dream is to develop land, and I know it is a hassle trenching and getting all the infrastructure in. I want to stick between $200 to $400 a month. $4 is our max. We were looking at a golf course, and it was tons of landscaping, tons of mowing, and a lot of overhead, and you got to pay for that. But if we could stick to $200 a month, and people can move in there and have a tiny home, and we're a manufacturer of tiny homes too, I don't know. I'm hoping that if this continues, I hope that we can set that trend, because I've always said, well, if we want to make more money, we just build more communities. But why constantly up the rate of a rental rate of a lot, just like these apartments you were talking about earlier back home in Casper, where you're from? The rental rate on an apartment is crazy. $2,800 for a 2-3 bedroom.
For a 3-bedroom, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who can afford that, And then you'd have nowhere to put a tiny home, so the city doesn't let you do that. We're really being in a trap, and I'm hoping, and it's a hard task, I tell you, to be able to research the country, where to buy a chunk of land, and then put all this infrastructure in and pay for it, and then only get $200-$300 a month. I'm pretty much, the reason nobody does it is because you don't make a lot of money. And to me, I think my benefit is I build the homes, so it gives us, homes to build. Plus, in the long run, it has a little bit of residual income coming in, but it's only 25%. 30% of what normal people would charge for a lot rent, But I think in the long run, our folks that are paying $200 to $300 a month, where are you going to go? You're going to stay there forever, because any investor always asks me, now, what's your turnover? How many people leave? Are you losing rental because there's lots that are not rented? Oh my God, they're stepping on their neck to get here because you can't go anywhere for $200,
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, man, I thank you for coming in. This has been real eye-opening, even the things that, I've forgotten about Lindsay, and I didn't know anything about Alaska. And we're going to try to get their information and put it in this link.
Yep.
And they'll work with you. And then, there are still DIYs, guys that want to work with you. And so I'm hoping this will help you inspect people. Yeah. And so everybody, this is Alex. He comes in here. This is a quarter. You won't be back for another 3 months, I guess.
Around December, I believe.
Around December. Yeah. Boy, it'll be cold in Casper then, won't it?
Yes, it will be.
Yeah.
And windy.
And windy. He's wanting us to come to Casper. I'm like, I don't know about Casper, but yeah. You know what? It's fun. I like going other parts of the country and seeing, there's housing need everywhere.
Yes.
And we build for people that go across the country, all over the country. But when we start getting out and we start looking at, if I looked at Casper, it's more of a local market. It's not going to be nobody from Florida is going to be moving to Casper and living in the winter, right?
It is a brutal winter, so there's no...
Yeah.
It takes rugged people to go up there to be able to endure the cold and the wind for 6 months out of the year.
It's got to be hard on you. I mean, you're south of the border. You're used to warm weather, and you're in Casper,
Yeah. Being born in Mexico and not being used to those types of climates, it's been quite a change.
Wow. Good. Well, man, thank you for coming in. Glad you took the time. I know you got a schedule you got to keep, and I think people are going to like this. We'll try to put all these, his link and these other 2 links in here. If you guys get information, and give him a call, give Alex a call, email him. And what's the name of your company?
The name of our company is Pacific West Associates. That's our primary company.
Okay.
And I run the tiny home division, which is Pacific West Tiny Homes.
Pacific West Tiny Homes. They can Google that, YouTube, all that.
Google, yes. YouTube is a little bit difficult. I don't have an account.
Oh, I forget about that. Tiny home guys are not YouTubers like me. You're right. Good.
Yeah. Well, there's the future in the social media as well. So.
Exactly. Good. All right. Thank you, buddy, for coming by.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.